If you go back to the World War II, the admiral who had been tasked with planning Pearl Harbor thought it was a really bad idea. He went through and obviously followed orders, but he thought it was a very bad idea because he had spent a substantial amount of time studying in the United States when he was younger. And his conclusion was that attacking the United States was a bad idea because even though at the time militarily we were behind the Japanese, certainly technologically and otherwise, we had factories and we had access to raw material and resources. And he knew that over time, once those factories and those raw materials were put to the war machine, the Japanese would not be able to keep up. And you could very well argue that the end of World War II, that the victory in World War II, both in Europe and especially in Asia, was the result of America's industrial capacity. When the Japanese lost the plane, they lost the plane. When we lost the plane, and their planes were better than ours for a long time, when we lost the plane, we were able to produce hundreds to replace it. Industrial capacity mattered in terms of national security. And that's never changed. That's always been true. And so today what you find is because of all of those years of neglect, because of the loss of industrial capacity, we didn't just undermine our society, we didn't just undermine our domestic economy, we've undermined our position in the world. And what you will find, and what we find even now, is that increasingly on geopolitical issue after geopolitical issue, it is access to raw material and industrial capacity that is at the core both of the decisions that we're making and the areas that we're prioritizing. Now, the technologies are different, but nonetheless, that is what we're increasingly prioritizing. And that's become really apparent to me. I think it was even going into this job, but in the months that I've been there, on place after place, every country in the world is now pitching themselves as a source of rare earth minerals. Every country in the world, by the way, they're not that rare, so every country has access to it, but it's become a big, but that alone is not enough. Because you have to have access to rare earth minerals, but then you have to have the ability to process them. And you have to make them into usable material. And frankly, what the Chinese have done over the last 25 or 30 years is they've cornered the market. And this is one of the true challenges to sort of pure free enterprise view of these things. You cannot compete with a nation state who has decided they're not interested in making money. They're not interested in making money in this field. They are interested in the short term in dominating the market, being the sole source provider for the world of a certain product. Because once you establish industry dominance in any one of these fields, you can charge the world whatever you want. Now, one thing is if we said, well, this happened because they're just better than us. But that's not why it happened. It happened because we literally gave it away. Because we made the decision, we made the policy decision that it was okay, we were okay with 80-something% of the active ingredients in most of our generic pharmaceuticals coming from another country. We were okay with giving that away. We were okay with giving away all kinds of things like that. And now we are in a crunch. And I say we, I mean the rest of the world is in a crunch because we have realized that our industrial capability is deeply dependent on a number of potential adversary nation states, including China, who can hold it over our head. And so in many ways, the nature of geopolitics is now adjusted to that and is adjusting to that. And it will be one of the great challenges of the new century and one of the priorities of this administration under President Trump is to reorient our domestic and the way we pursue geopolitics to take into account for the fact that you can never be secure as a nation unless you're able to feed your people and unless you're able to make the things that your economy needs in order to function and ultimately to defend yourself.